Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bash_Bo3, and to our farthest right, per usual, is none other than the Rex ShadyNero. And boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a fun one, man. I am really looking forward to this one. And we're talking about the biggest takeaways from the past year or two. And I legitimately think that this conversation could be the most valuable, insightful, interesting, just important conversation that we've had in a long time. So hopefully you stick around and enjoy it, and enjoy it as much as I think I'm going to enjoy it as well. And hopefully all of us will. So we have a lot to talk about, obviously, with the format and the Boston breach and so much more. Before we get into that, guys, I got to ask, boys, what's going on?
Well, Josh, I'm feeling like a gopher who's dug himself down in a little hole, and he's stumbled across a pack of naked mole rats. And I'm wondering, who are these nude creatures in my home? This is strange. I call the local badger. He comes down, clears things out. And I'm found my new wife, and we're having kids any day now.
Wow. That's beautiful. You know how it is, just naked strangers in your house, kind of the norm. Sam, right? How you doing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like a weekly occurrence over at the old Bashford household.
Oh,
so.
of course. Yeah,
absolutely.
I come over a lot.
Oh, yeah. I think you're 50% of that time is you. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today, boys and girls. It's going to be a fun one. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. You can listen on Spotify. You can watch on YouTube. Drop that comment down below on YouTube. And, today I thought some people have been leaving some 5-star reviews on YouTube just through the comments. So we always appreciate the nice words in the comments. So we got to show some love over on the tube. So today we have a review from none other than Perfectly Average Golf. And if you guys don't know, I mean, you guys are missing out. Perfectly Average Golf is I Hold Shift's fantastic golfing channel on YouTube. So I highly recommend it. He's a beast, an absolute unit on the course with the sticks in his hand.
And he looks good doing it too.
Oh, he looks good doing it.
Looks real good.
And so he says, 5-star review. Bash is so damn handsome. I want him in my ear holes all day, every day.
Not even
Rex absolutely wrecks me with his intros. And Josh may be good at talking, but he's probably bad at golf. What is this?
Oh, just the roast,
what is this?
bro.
After all that love, I get roasted. Oh my goodness.
You do need to actually golf with him though, Josh.
Oh no, actually, legit, I
you do need to.
desperately want this to happen. So hopefully we can do that in the spring or something would be amazing. But Perfectly Average Golf Shift, thank you so much, man. The 5-star review, we appreciate that. And I'll destroy you on the course. It's obvious. Let's not get twisted here. Also, we have another one from Matthew Tolk. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I lied. From Mitchell Cochran, 5-star review because he doesn't have an Apple Podcast. He says, hey guys, I hope you guys catch this review. I've been listening to the podcast since Hoot got dropped during the Cold War season, and I have loved all the hot takes and listening in and seeing what you guys have going on and talking about on a weekly basis. As an audio listener, it's incredibly enjoyable, even if I don't have the visuals all the time. Keep up the amazing work, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say this season. Also hyped on the Ultra because they're coming in hot. Love from a totally unbiased social media manager. Mitchell, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
There we go.
Thank you
for the kind words. And boys and girls, we have a lot to get into today. And so without further ado, let's get right into the news of the week. Let's hit it.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
News here. Come get your Call of Duty news. League news. Boston Breach have made a few hires.
Oh
Zed,
my goodness.
head coach. Denz, general manager.
Nice.
Crazy, man.
Sweet stuff. So there's they used to be on Paris together, Modern Warfare.
They were doing it up, bro. I mean, they've kind of been a duo for a while. I mean, Zed and Denz, I mean, they kind of go at it. I mean, even dating back to BO4 and Reciprocity and World War II, they were always competing against each other. So it's yeah, it's really cool. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that as a hire overall?
I was very sad when Zed announced that he was going to like step back from competing. I think
he looked good.
Yeah, he was one of those guys on London that really when he joined, he was kind of up, like he was helping build that team back up, and then he got kind of pushed out, and it was like just like really weird. I didn't agree with it at all. I still think Zed has a lot of the tank if he did choose to compete, but
yeah,
you know, it is what it is. So all that to say is I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely impressed that they would go and hire Zed, because I know that he'll be a fantastic head coach, because he's just a smart person. Like you hear him talk and like you see him play. I think he was a very underrated player throughout his career. So I think I think this is a fantastic move for Boston, and I'm excited that like they're willing to do this and not just like bring on some person that, you know, might not have any,
some random person.
Exactly. Like this is like, this shows they're actually like invested into the scene, hiring him, and that they like at least have a plan going forward. So I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
Well, I've also really liked Denz, and even Denz, he replied on a Reddit thread made about his announcement.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
He said, "Hey guys, I appreciate all the support and kind words. I know roster speculation is always a big thing, and even more so with the unique position we are in. In saying that, I can assure you guys that our approach looks at models and expert analysis that help in these decisions, and it's our hope to build something special and something that the fans can get excited about." Well spoken, very eloquent, and I think Denz is going to do good things for the Boston Breach.
I mean, like, it definitely did come off as a little bit of a surprise, just because like they're the Boston Breach. Like, realistically, these guys deserve to be hired, but I was just surprised that it was a Boston team that was the one that ended up hiring them. You know, and it maybe just came down. I know Zed talked about how he already had a relationship. I think it was Zed who was saying, it was one of them was saying that they already had a relationship with them a little bit, because he had talked about potentially either playing for them or coaching for them in the amateur scene at one point. And so there was kind of like some history there, which definitely played into the part of him getting the job, that they had some connections. So, I mean, it is interesting though. Like, I wonder who else they were even considering. Like, what were the other options? I mean, how do you think this kind of plays out in the long term? Obviously, this kind of goes toe in toe with their potential rumored roster, but I don't know. Like, it was, at least that's what I'm saying. Is I was just a little bit surprised that it ended up being 2 Europeans for an American centered team. Like, I thought maybe one plus another American would make sense for just the branding aspects of it. So it was cool to see them taking, I don't know if it counts as a risk, but like kind of going against the grain there by hiring 2 Europeans.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I am sick and tired of these Europeans coming into our country and trying to take over our Call of Duty.
Australian as well, for Denz, of course.
America.
And Australia. But no, I think, where are they going with that? Either way, I think this team is going to start out sort of like LAG did, where I don't think they're going to be very good this first year, and they might not even be good the second year, but it's going to be like a growing process as we're moving along. I mean, firstly, because like, who do they have to pick from right now? Like, anything they do is kind of going to be gambling.
Yeah, so maybe we go into the next part about their roster.
As long as they keep getting the financing, like, they could end up being a better team, like we've seen LAG grow from year after year.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think to your point, you're right. Like, you know, it is very late in the game. People have already solidified their rosters. So, like, you know, when it comes to like picking from people who have already been in the scene and already pros, it is very slim pickings. But like you said, you know, this is kind of their chance, like, you know, gamble. But also too, I feel like Paul X should still be very much in the conversation. I think Paul X is one of like the best players not currently signed yet.
Right.
But again, you know, they could be, you know, with Zed and with Denz, you know, maybe they have contacts, you know, in the European challenger scene that they have like the best up and comers. We'll see. So, well,
I mean, that's the thing. So I guess let's talk real quick about their roster here. So
rumored roster.
Obviously they announced, well, not they announced, but from CDL Intel, he announced that Zin, Tej, Nero, and then Capsule are going to be the 4 right now. And they were scrimming today and they looked pretty good, but like to your point. And so we can talk more about that just overall, and Capsule, especially the biggest surprise there with Nero. Shout out Nero, of course. I mean, you know, good to see a Nero in the league, you know.
Not the shady one though.
Yeah, you know, we need another one there. But like for Zed last year, I mean, maybe there was some sort of dynamic there with him and Paul X. I mean, obviously they played together last year on London. So it's like you wonder what their relationship's like, and was that a decision? Because once Zed and Denz were announced kind of as this with their positions, then it came out that Venom and Paul X were not going to be playing with Methods and Tej anymore. Yeah, so it was like a little bit odd. It almost came off like across like Zed or Denz made that decision in a sense. Like, I don't know. We don't know exactly, but it definitely, the timing was weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if this is the team, I think this is a really solid team for coming in late into the game. I mean, even picking up a player like, I know we kind of roast Tej like a lot, but he still is a very good player. And he has that potential to do great things still.
And you know what you're getting with him
highly
too.
About him in Black Ops 4. People, you know, talked about him a little bit in Modern Warfare, and just things sort of like declined a little bit, but there was always a certain like mystique there about him. I think having him back, like that's just a really solid pickup to have. Then you have Methods, which is like there's this veteranship there, a solid AR player. And then you have Nero, who's mainly been running around in the amateur scene, getting decent placings. And then you have Capsule, who's your most like, I think
unknown,
you know,
honestly,
you know, biggest like gamble player.
I mean,
guess.
yeah, he's a pretty massive gamble. I mean, like most people I think were probably like, who in the world is Capsule? Because if you didn't watch the first cup, you probably don't know who Capsule is. I mean, last year he had an average placing of 23.7. Thanks, Shift, for calculating these things. He had an average placing of 23.7 last year in the Cold War with no Elite Series appearances. So like, if you weren't watching his first Cup 1, you definitely don't know who Capsule is.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in the scene actively, in the amateur scene.
We're going to see how all this plays out, but I like the makeup of the team going into the league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, Capsule, in his past, he's one of those guys that was an S&D guy. I mean, literally all day long. So, you know, in that illy squad of S&D people and, you know, obviously grinding with, like, the Mohawks of the world and those types of guys throughout his few years now. He's only 19, right? So he's obviously still young, but again, he's just so new to the scene and hasn't really won anything yet outside of the second place finishing at the first cup. That it's just it was really crazy. Some of the amateur players were tweeting, were like, if this is true what I'm hearing, I'm like mind blown. And that was like a lot of tweets I saw on Twitter. So I don't know. I mean, do you like the risk?
I do. Like I feel like we need to start doing this like more where like we need new names in the scene. We need these risks, you know. I think there's like a balance between, you know, using guys who've been around, but then also like we do need to dip into this pool of talent, especially with like the challengers not having the most support right now. Like it kind of felt like we're not going to get like new names like ever sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I truly do appreciate whenever people do, you know, gamble like this, because I think at one point or at some point it's going to pay off, and it could very well pay off for this Boston squad with Capsule. Again, I haven't seen him play, so like, you know, I can't sit here and be like, oh, I knew this guy was good and can't wait. I don't know, but like he could be, you know, the diamond in the rough. You know, who knows? I think this is probably the best move for Boston, especially with like how late in the game they are coming in and, you know, trying to make a roster. I think it's going to be the best that they could probably do. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit interesting because like Nero, people have actually known about for a while, but like they're the same age basically. So it is interesting. Obviously, Nero played with like Wester throughout this year with Zaptius, Hamza, and Gravity, and then last year he was on the LAG Academy, of course, with Exceed and Mental and Mox and Machine before that. So he's been in it for a while now. He's been moderately successful throughout the amateur scene, but still overall, I think like them benching Venom and Paul, who both showed potential last year at times, to then bring in Nero and Capsule, who haven't won on a big stage yet, is, I mean, surprising to say the least. But I do like the idea, and if the first day of scrims has anything to show, I mean, they were very competitive in both their scrims today against London, where they like split map sets, and then against LA Thieves, where they basically split map sets as well. So they're at least not
Good
getting
times.
bodied in their first day together in Hardpoint, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And Nero and Capsule, I think, are both very solid S&D players, and they came up in the S&D scene. So pairing them with like Tej and Methods, the logic behind it could make sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'm excited overall.
Um,
The other thing,
in other
I was
news-
gonna say one other thing with that roster is that it was reported that Brezzy, the French player, was also a potential option for that team, which is interesting and kind of weird. I don't know how true that was, but C. Dillon said he'd been hearing that name thrown around with potential options. So at least something else to keep in mind with that.
when this roster is officially announced.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other news, there's going to be 4 regular season. Did we talk about this last week?
We were
4 regular
theorizing.
season majors, maybe 7 lands, including the kickoff, the amateur versus pro, and champs.
Yeah. So they officially announced the format, but like, I don't know. I mean, obviously 4 guaranteed majors, then like, how do you feel about it? Obviously there's a lot more to it. I mean, maybe we just want to read through all of
I
these
was going to
things
say,
first.
I think we should read more because that's not the whole picture.
Yeah.
So the
let's
first
just read through
land-
the whole thing.
The first LAN is going to be hosted by OpTic Texas and Dallas. Other hosts are being announced at a later date. Playoffs. There are 8 teams will qualify for playoffs. All 8 teams will start in winners round 1. There will might not be any buys. There's going to be a mid-season tournament, which is the Pro Am tournament, and a Warzone event featuring pros, streamers, influencers, all that. And then there's going to be a kickoff classic on January 21st through the 23rd. It'll be all 12 teams
1 month from now
on LAN with a live audience in Arlington.
So
and
some
then the
sort of
start
show matches.
Stage 1 is February 4th through the 6th.
Yeah, which is league
And
matches.
so where it comes into play here is where there's going to be the LANs or the teams that are hosting. If it's going to be just the like top 8 teams, that the hosting team will do a play-in with the 8th seed to try and win their spot to go to their own tournament.
If
Right.
if they're not in the top 8.
Yeah. So
If they're
again,
not
the
in the top
clarifying
8.
point there is that only 8 teams qualify for every single major, and there's only 4 guaranteed stages for the majors. So then let's say, I don't know, Toronto or whoever hosts their major, then it's like, if they're not inside the top 8, they don't get to play in their own major. Like, so apparently they have a built-in clause that if that's the case, then they can play for a play-in spot with the 8th seed, which is just a weird
That's just
thing
rough, bro.
overall.
That's so bad.
It is weird. I mean, do we
So-
like that? Do we dislike that?
We dislike
Yeah,
that.
there's no way you can like having only 8 teams at the majors.
It's
I
just,
mean,
it's so
so this is what we talked about last
anticlimactic.
week, right? Was that I thought it was, I thought the rumor that CDL Intel had heard was to fight against the idea of having 11 teams. Well, like, yeah, if there's 11 teams, then that makes sense to only have 8 teams at the majors. But if you have a full 12 teams, which we are going to have now, it's like what?
But again,
What?
like, and like it doesn't even make sense from like a organization standpoint. Like I forget who tweeted out, but it's like every team is paying the same amount, 25 mil to get in. Imagine paying 25 million and not getting to play on LAN at one of these 4. Like, that's so dumb.
But imagine, like, that just increases the stakes for everybody involved. And that's what makes it kind of cool for spectators, in my opinion.
I guess, but I didn't mind like knocking off 4 teams for champs. I really didn't. Like, top 8, that's fine. But like in a regular season where there's a possibility your team will never play on LAN, that is insanity.
Right, it's the champs, the playoffs v mid-season majors.
That's the thing too, is we saw how different Surge played on LAN. You know, so you're limiting some of these teams who are not good on online, which may not be an excuse anymore. There is a difference, and if you're a team that is consistently in the bottom online and never even makes it to LAN, how are you ever going to show that?
It's just going to be more competitive matches. It's not like we're going to be seeing, a Paris versus FaZe where nobody cares. We already know the answer, but every match is going to be, all right, there's a chance. Like if Mutineers play FaZe, there's more of a chance that Mutineers could pull something out of win somewhere than it would for like a Paris of last year.
I truly believe like this season it's going to be any team at any point can like pop off. Even Surge, Boston, and Paris.
I'm sorry, it is
Paris.
5.
Okay, so each team
had to
play 5. Okay.
Yeah, I had to figure that out. So it is 5. It's 5 over 4 weeks, which got me confused.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or 5 over 4 stages, I mean. So you could play a total of 20 matches. And you could literally only play 20 matches.
And never play on LAN.
Yeah. And, outside of the kickoff event.
Yes.
And maybe the Pro-Am, which we don't know for sure if it's confirmed to be on LAN yet, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those would be the biggest things, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm with.
I just don't get it. Truly. I don't know.
Right. The question is, what would be the motivation for not having all 12 teams there? I mean, they're trying to make
time management and making the league matches more important. Like when Paris versus like London played, or like whoever the 2 worst teams were, like no one really cared.
I mean, what do you mean time though? Like 12 teams is not that long to go through a bracket. You know?
Well, I mean,
you can see a viewership die down. Like when you go, like, and you started hitting the middle point. And we even talked about this last year, how like sometimes like, we would even talk about commercials being excessive and all that. And like,
but like,
we'd rather have commercials taken away, but we can't take commercials away. So you take away some of the games that people are probably not going to be tuning into anyways.
But I think with the same format, there's an almost similar amount of games being played though. Like, because it's double elimination and there's no buys for a major, that there's basically the same amount of games played. And like, how do you feel about there not being any buys? Or do you prefer that or not? Because I mean, like last year, obviously, FaZe just had to win 3 matches to win a major.
Yeah.
Like if you're the number 1 seed going into one, but at the same time, it felt deserved because you went like 5-0 in your group. And I didn't mind it that much. And I actually really enjoyed the elimination matches overall. Like, Paris v Seattle, but like one of them is going home, like in the elimination match. I didn't mind it personally. And it's definitely in my mind a lot better than this.
Yeah, no, I think everyone should start in winners, but there should be buys. Like, you know what I mean? Give the buys to the top 2 seeds or however that works out, but give each team a chance to lose twice.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. I'm totally for buys and like giving the 1-2 seed, an extra, like a free game that they don't have to play because they like league matches should matter 100%. I'm not saying that, but I think there's times where like a team, I think every team deserves to give 2 chances at the bracket, like two losses. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's just 2 sides of the coin. Personally, I don't mind I didn't mind teams not having 2 chances, but at the same time, the odds of a team. So like, I mean, like you could say that the point starting somebody in the losers bracket is like, what's the point? It's a death sentence. You're not gonna win. But it's like at the same time, playing against FaZe in the first round is a death sentence for a team who's 12th. Like, so then you're like, okay, that might be a death sentence. But I prefer, I definitely would prefer them having the chance to do it on LAN for sure. At the end of the day, long story short, it's just, this was definitely not the right option. Like,
no.
Either you have all 12 teams there and you do the same format as last year, which if they did the exact same format as last year, I don't think anyone would have been like, how dare you? Like,
no, it
wasn't
the
worst thing ever. Yeah.
wasn't bad.
But
there could have been like improvements from it for sure.
Right.
But like here,
So that was just why I was surprised.
Yeah, it just seems like we kind of went backwards again. I just don't get it.
Yeah, so I mean, like at least they did confirm the AMV Pro tournament, which I don't think we know for sure if it's on LAN or not yet. But if it is, I mean, thoughts on that?
Oh man, it'd be so sick. I'm like super excited for that actually.
Yeah,
and I hope it's on LAN.
Oh, I hope it's on LAN, and I hope an AM team goes far. Like that would be so cool. I would love it.
Yeah,
I know. Like, you don't want them all to get eliminated like the first 3 rounds, and then the CDL is like, see, like told you.
No, it's like, see, we're never doing this again.
This is pointless.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, we need like, like the old Subliners Academy team, BBG, Parasites team, Sensors team. Like, dude, like imagine if Sensor went far. Like, that would be so funny. Like storyline on storyline. Like Sensors is getting all hyped up and like everyone's faces. That's so cool, dude.
To your point, isn't it a little bit ironic that in this whole like where we've heard, teams paid so that they didn't have to work for their spots against AM teams. Like they paid to be a part of this, but then they limit majors down to 8, and then they guarantee us an AMV pro tournament. You're like, what? Like, that is completely opposite of the last 2 years of things that we've said.
It makes no sense.
Well, it's going to force these teams to get good teams.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah,
it's going to enforce a competitive integrity. And what, like, something that's happened now is like, there's always have to be a balance with these orgs between like branding, getting someone with like a face and name that they can sell, and winning. Now this is going to put more of the edge towards you want to be more of a winning team than somebody just has somebody famous.
Well, and like the pro of it,
and I like that personally.
It's a chance that teams can get quote unquote embarrassed, or like let's say last year LAG they didn't make the major, but then what if their academy team was one of the teams and then they make a run at the tournament? You're like, well, this looks awkward. Like
LAG's going to be pumped.
Exactly. It's like there's a chance.
And it's going to make other orgs want to get those academy
That's
teams.
the biggest thing. So it's like if a challengers team makes a run, those bottom 4 teams who didn't qualify for the previous major could be like, okay, well, we're picking up these guys. So see ya, roster.
It's like, bye.
It's going to at least put some more pressure from the fans on these teams to make changes if a challengers team succeeds at the AMV Pro LAN or event.
And just like also like their teams are going to maybe want to pick up challengers rosters, like academy teams, because it's like instead of just getting destroyed by, little PP team 4, they're going to make them, Subliners Academy or
little
OpTic
PP
Academy.
Team 4.
They always have these crazy names.
Please.
It's like, okay, let's just make them an academy team. So when they are doing well, at least our org's attached to it and not little PP 6-4.
Please someone in the Challengers Cup 3 be named PP Team 4.
Please.
Oh my word!
Yeah,
we will sponsor you with $50.
$50 to you guys, 100% guaranteed. We guarantee it. But yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I think I'm just trying to confirm if the Pro Am was on LAN or not. I can't remember. Do you guys remember off the top of your heads? I don't know if it was confirmed or not.
The what? Sorry, the Pro Am. Oh yeah, no. I think Sensor just said there's for sure going to be a tournament.
Right. It says on the website, it says for the first time, the Call of Duty League will introduce a Pro-Am tournament as well as a Call of Duty Warzone event featuring Call of Duty League pro streamers and other influencers. But it doesn't guarantee that it's on LAN. They guaranteed that the Kickoff Classic's on LAN, which is dope, in a month. And they guaranteed that the first majors, and they guaranteed that the 4 majors are on LAN. And then I would imagine champs will be on LAN. So then the only debate would be whether or not the Pro-Am's on LAN or what that would look like. So I guess we're going to see.
No, it better be LAN. I better see Doug Sensor Martin play without a shirt on in the LAN environment. Yes. That would be
or at least
sick.
Sleeveless. At least back to sleeveless Doug, 100%. So I guess we'll see. We'll see for sure. But
in other news, destructible environments doors were patched but still glitched. So I know you can make them already destroyed in a custom game or make it normal.
Yep.
What's the
Which
glitch
was a little
with
bit-
this?
Because basically on accounts right now, sometimes it'll show up and sometimes you can just run right through it. Or like sometimes it'll be enabled, but you can not see it.
I remember seeing a clip where like somebody could see through the door like it's normal, but the other person had a door on their screen.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's actually kind of a big
right
bug.
now. So the question is whether or not this is actually going to be used in competitive over the next few months, like whether or not we're actually going to disable the destructible environments or not. Because I mean, it would drastically change all maps. I mean, like a bow cage, it drastically changes how it plays in Search and Destroy.
Yeah, no,
So,
I
or Desert Siege, something like that.
yeah, I know. I'm trying to think honestly. Because right now, by default, doors and indestructible walls are now off in all the CDL game modes. But it's bugged. That's what we're saying.
So they're still playing with it on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it definitely gets a little bit wild.
I wouldn't mind if everything was just destroyed. Because I mean, there's times where I guess maybe I'm just stupid or dumb, but man, I'll like get caught on a freaking window or something like that. It's like just destroy it. I'm mashing
I know,
B.
you're losing full running through
like,
it. You know,
oh
it's like,
my
bro,
gosh.
get out of here. It's terrible.
So
But,
personally, I would like it. I mean, you can say there's some sort of like intuitive, like maybe like slight skill gap where you can close doors and like
Right.
Whatever.
I would imagine that if it's disabled, it's gonna have its own set of like glitches or like weird lines of sight if it's disabled.
Yeah.
But unintended, quote unquote, or whatever. We'll see though. We'll see.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because then it's like, which ways are they gonna have the doors open, like in or out?
Yeah.
That'll change too. It's like, are they gonna have the doors open or
Can you hide in this side or that side?
Exactly.
Or like
well,
100%.
Will they be stuck there? Or can you move? Yeah, I don't know. So
no, literally. But yeah,
there's some options.
there are. Rex, what else we got?
So we also have Call of Duty Mobile. The content creators of Call of Duty Mobile are in the game now.
Yeah, like they have like content creator operators, which is like
insanity.
Bro, how does this happen? How does COD Mobile get whatever they want?
I know.
It makes no sense. It's like who lets them just run free over there? And then Call of Duty here is like on a leash, like getting whapped by like just sit in a corner and put in timeout. Like what? We're getting spankings out here while COD Mobile's running free, doing whatever they want. They have creator operators. Like, dude, imagine if we had a Scump or like a Octane or whoever operator, a ShadyNero operator.
A Dr. Disrespect one. That would be amazing too.
Yeah, dude, it'd be crazy.
That's crazy. Apparently COD Mobile has an ELO rank system too.
They do.
Like
they do.
What? Like, oh,
it makes no sense, bro.
It's so sad, man. They just
insane.
They truly hate mainstream Call of Duty competitive.
It's mind blowing. It really is.
It is.
It really is. But
it honestly is just strange. It's just odd.
It is.
Like I just wish there was something like say something or acknowledge it or, reject the idea, anything.
I know.
But it's just
they act like nothing's
even like
happening.
And it just like, honestly, we say we're not mad, shouldn't be mad at people working on it, but I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of mad. Like ton of people are like leaving. No one's going to spill the beans on this whole operation here. No one at
Activision.
And like, it just makes you wonder like how, I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. The last piece of news is that Shift announced that he's hosting the scouting series and his version of the scouting series, and that unfortunately there's not going to be an NA or an APAC or like an LTAM one because they don't have the showcase or the funding for it or anything like that. But the NA one will go on. And the NA one is actually going to be pretty lit, I think, on the 22nd. So like a day after this goes live, you'll be able to watch. Also, this episode's going live pretty early in the morning, actually. So welcome, everybody, if you guys are listening in the mornings.
Top of the morning to you, lads.
Good morning. But 3 p.m. Eastern time, the 22nd, Shift and company are putting on Next Threat Showcase, which is the scouting series for the community. And there's going to be a draft. There's going to be captains. There's going to be at least hopefully some coaches involved, some sort of money on the line. And Activision actually approved it. So they're letting Shift work for free. So how nice of them. And so this is going to be a wild one, and definitely go support that whole squad. Shift and everybody's going to be casting that. They're the GOATs. And it's going to be dope. And I will definitely be there. So grind it. I also need to do Christmas present shopping, so hopefully I can watch. But otherwise, I will be watching for sure. If not all live, I will watch every second of that. 100% guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's huge. It's super. It's unfortunate. Like with like the lack of support. Like he kind of goes below the tweet and kind of says, he wanted it to be bigger than it was, but like there's just a lot of not a ton of support there. Yeah. So truly, if you have some free time and want the COD scene to grow, please tune into this, because
Activision they've never in their lives been like. They literally don't understand they build it, they will come. Like they don't understand that at all. It's like maybe if you just build a little bit of hype around something, people will be excited about it. Like who'd have thought? Drives me insane. It actually makes me lose my mind. But that's all the news, folks, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, we're getting into the meat and potatoes of this conversation. The crucial lessons. And we're going to be going through a lot of different things. I'm excited for it. So without further ado, let's get right into this one, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hit it.
You remember one thing from today, it's this. The mind is the only weapon that doesn't need a holster.
Alrighty, baby. So why I'm so excited about this conversation is because what we said is that all of us are going to come together without telling each other our takeaways. And we're going to go through it and kind of talk through some of these things. And so we all have some lessons learned from the past 2 years in the CDL, talking about it, thinking about it, watching it, that'll help us in the future to understand the game better, to enjoy it more, to have better predictions, to be more accurate, whatever it is. Important takeaways, things to know. And I think there's some pretty good ones in here. I think you're going to create some really fun conversation. And so I'm excited. So you guys ready to blow people's freaking minds?
Oh, bro.
Let's do it. Let's blow some minds.
Just so smart,
Of course. I mean, so scholarly around here. So, all right. Well, do you want to start us off, Sam?
I mean, if I have the absolute pleasure, sure.
Oh, you have the absolute pleasure.
Okay.
Hey, interruption real quick. This is Josh from the future talking really quick. So I wanted to say before we get into the conversation, you can check out the best of 3 GBs. Me, Sam, and Rex have been playing GBs. It's on the gaming channel, my gaming channel, SalvationsElite Gaming. I think the link's down in the description of the podcast. It should be at least. And I forgot to mention it in this episode. Real quick, I want to play the trailer for it. If you haven't watched yet, this is the intro to Best of 3 GBs. If you're on YouTube, you're going to love it. If you're listening not on YouTube, then you're going to be really confused for about 10 seconds, but you're going to hopefully like it anyway. So go check that out after the podcast, because it's a blast of us playing GBs together. And I think you guys will enjoy it. It's kind of longer form conversations too. So without further ado, roll the little 10-second intro here. Let's check it out. And then back to the podcast, baby. Let's go.
Alrighty, so just kind of looking around and thinking back about Cold War,
looking around,
just what we saw. And here's one that I think was, I think it's interesting, and I hope that this can be applied into next season and also future Call of Duty seasons as well.
Okay.
So my takeaway is quote unquote old guns.
Okay. All right.
Can become extremely valuable if positioned in the correct way. And so when I say old guns, I'm kind of referring to, there's like two kind of groups here. I probably wouldn't say old guns as in like Scump, Clay, Crim, those kind of guys who are older, but these guys are still kind of frying. I think this more applies to just list some names here, like a Looney, Apathy, Zed, Scraps, but then in this particular case, Bance. So
okay, interesting.
My mic just fell. Looking at Bance here, so Bance obviously plays currently for Toronto Ultra.
He does,
and I think there's a lot of speculation about Bance and his role on Ultra, and he even said, per his own tweet, like he was thinking about retiring, like he was just that kind of down in the dumps
going into the Cold War season.
So looking overall at his stats here, I'm kind of just going to go down here with like some KDs. Obviously, we know KD is not the whole story, but it does paint a good picture of what's been happening. So overall KD for Cold War was a 0.99. Hardpoint KD was a 1.01. S&D KD was a 0.9. Control KD 0.99. He was 18th for SMGs and Hardpoint, 52nd for KDs and S&D, and 17th for SMGs and Control. And so I guess what I wanted to paint here was like, these are by all means like average stats, like stat wise, like
right. You're not like, wow, this guy was an elite player in the CDL last year, but he's looking off those stats, which goes to show to your point that stats don't paint the whole picture.
Exactly, they don't. And so, looking at Toronto's placings again, first major was 7th, 8th, and then second, first. Third major was third. The fourth major was third. The fifth major was second, and then of course champs second, or second, right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Yeah. Okay.
Second,
I had a brain fart there for a little bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, so like I guess there's just overall takeaway was like when you're not placing these players in a position where they have to be extreme slayer, such as I think Apathy was placed in this position on LAG.
This is actually interesting. I'm gonna just for 1 second. I'm gonna cut you off just because I have a takeaway that's it's interestingly similar to what you're saying here.
Okay.
So I'll follow you up on the next
Perfect. One. Okay. Yeah. So I think this is where what led to Apathy's retirement was he was placed in a position where he wasn't going to succeed. He had to be a slayer. Yeah, he had to be a slayer. But when you take someone like Bance into this role where you can say he's getting carried, but
he's just got to be a leader.
He's got to be a leader. He's got to put up the stats still. Like putting up a 1 is still good. Like you have SMGs in this league who are putting up like 0.8, 0.7. I mean that's just right. Reality. Like he obviously has the skill. He's got the gunny. He doesn't need to be the overall slayer for his team, but like he's placed to where he just needs to lead and mold into this team. And I think that
communication, leadership.
I think it's fair to say that Bance was a huge part of his team's success, and think we'll be going forward. So I think that was a pretty cool thing to see. That like even on the brink of retirement, where like someone would probably say, okay, he's useless, he turns out to be on one of the best teams in Cold War.
Yeah. Like, so to your point, and this was kind of one of my. So if either of you guys ever have like similar takeaways, like just throw it out there. Like, hey, this is pretty similar to mine, and then we can kind of riff on that. But so to your point, one of my takeaways was banking on veterans to be what they were in the past isn't a good strategy.
There you go.
Facts.
So
yes, sir.
And so I said. And so I was like, this is maybe to the extreme with like guys like Dylan CoD, or maybe even like you could say banking on like Alex to be the Alex of Modern Warfare for London, or like Apathy for LAG or the Surge last year, where he needed to be that guy. He needed to be old Apathy for those teams to work, or even bringing John in this year. Like that was, I think, more reasonable because we didn't really know what he could be yet. So it was worth the risk. And still to be decided, I guess. But yeah, to your point, like you can't build a team around guys banking on them to be what they used to be. You have to have evidence that they can get to that point again. And so it's like at some point you have to like ask, what have you done for me lately? Like, has this guy been that guy? Like, are you that guy, buddy? Like, it really comes down to it at some point, and at some point you have to show it. And like, we saw that maybe with like Scraps last year, where we're just like, man, we want Scraps to be BO4 Scraps. But like, you know, that Paris team was banking on Scraps being BO4 Scraps, and it never came to fruition.
Yeah. Like, you know, like Dylan CoD. I think TJ has been put in that role where it's like people want TJ to be World War II TJ, and we may see it again, but is there evidence for that? I don't know. Which I think is like partly like why there's some hesitancy with the Boston squad. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think you're right though, where it's like you need to have pretty hard evidence that
can this guy be a top 15 player? Like that's the real, like you need an SMG to be a top 15 player in the league.
Yes.
To be a top 4 team. So it's like, it actually comes down to those types of things. I think I had a few other guys on the list, like you mentioned Looney already, where it's like, you need Looney to at least be like a real solid player plus the brain and, you know, just mental processing and leadership. Slacks was on that list probably as well. Maybe even Temp, you could say, like with the LA Thieves team and heading into Cold War. Where he had to be an elite slayer for that team to work. And then you could even say Formal to a sense at the end of last year with OpTic.
Absolutely.
Like they needed him to be Formal and he just wasn't. And that ended up being a big time difference. So
it's fair. Very fair.
So one thing I want to bring up is like, you know, maybe some of the guys like this year that kind of at least give off some sort of that vibe will be like accuracy, where like some people are like, accuracy can be accuracy of World War II, but we haven't seen him slay to that point since World War II. And then you can also maybe the whole Paris squad, like Temp John, Decimate Fellow. Even like I would say Gunless to an extent, like we all want Gunless to be gunless, but we haven't really seen the elite slayer Gunless on a consistent basis since World War BO4 really. So
I mean, there's like a Call of Duty, like, I don't even know what to call it other than like a generation gap. And I think it's like the way the game is viewed is just different than how like I used to view it back in Black Ops 2 to how the game is viewed now. It like from a younger generation, it's just different. And the younger generation has a like, it's just they're playing two different games. It's not that either are wrong, but it's just two different types of games. And I think that's something like people don't recognize.
Right. Either you adapt or you don't win. Like,
yeah.
And
so I mean, there's a reason like these veterans kind of go to like this, like, you know, actually is not the slang action anymore. Cause like the way that the game was viewed in his time and like our time, like, is different than just how I think a younger generation looks at it now. That's my theory, at least. But you could just see a difference between these younger kids and these older players. And I don't think it's age that's the difference here. I think it's just a way of how the game is like viewed.
No, that's fair. And like it's just more likely that a younger player might have a more new age look on how COD's played and like the pace of play that it requires to be elite. And
right.
And that's why we've seen some of the best teams in the past 2 seasons really pair veterans with the young guys to be successful. The Empires of the league and Torontos of the league, pairing of youth plus veterans has worked for a lot of teams. So I think it's a pretty fair strategy if you find the right guys.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there it is. There's kind of 2 down. So Rex, is you got one for us?
I just want to go off of this a little bit more. I think there's like almost, I feel like almost that younger generation almost sees more, they're more focused on a micro play perspective, like second to second, like how they're like, I don't know, like getting behind a wall or like things like that is like, they're much more micro player focused than an older generation who's more macro focused. And it's more about reading the map, positioning of where these players are going to be, 10 seconds from now. And that brings me to one of my points, is that I think reading the map is one of the most important skills somebody could ever get in COD, and just knowing how things are operating on a macro level.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, every team has needed one guy, at least one guy that does that very, very well. Obviously, you want all 4 of your players to do it on some basis. And like, obviously with FaZe, they're also so balanced equally that they really share those roles insanely, probably as good as we've ever seen a team do it when it comes to like balancing their roles. But outside of like FaZe, who's probably just an exception to the rule because they're just so dang good. I mean, every team needs at least one of those guys to be great, and the players, the more that you have of them, the better. I mean, like in a big term perspective, and keeping track of spawns and tracking movement and positioning and keeping aware of where you guys are at and where your arrows are pointing, like that type of communication literally is the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
For sure.
Like knowing when this guy's down on the right side lane, it's like, okay, we know that, okay, one shot was fired back in our spawn, and we know one other shot was fired over there. Like we're missing one. He's spawning up somewhere over here. We know this right lane's open. Hey, you can probably sneak through and get behind them before they realize anything while that man is respawning.
Definitely.
It's like, that sort of mentality. It's that macro level thinking of things.
And the teams who do that at the most efficient level are the ones that see the most success. And
but you want your micro player guy, the one doing the flanking.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. And it is an interesting like balance of like putting each other in the best places to win, but also just having to do the jobs that need to be done around the map. And like the players who can the teams that can most efficiently put their players in the spots that they want to be in generally have the most success.
Yes.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, Sam, fire away then.
Here we go. All right. So I think this will be an interesting one too, because I think there is some truth to this one, but there's also some huge caveats as well. And I think we can talk about 2 different sides to this that we saw in Cold War. And that is adding a single person to your team can unlock the full potential of your squad. But that's in like a huge, like bold can, because I think there was times where teams would try to swap in guys and it never
they got
worked.
impatient. Yeah,
exactly. So when we look at, obviously we look at the successes, we look at Standy, we look at Insight, Insight for Ultra, and then Standy for Rokkr. So of course, both teams switched with them in stage 2, I believe. I think it was Standy stage 2 and then Insight stage 2, correct?
Yeah.
So funny enough, both teams did get 7th, 8th, without their additions.
At the stage 1 major?
Yeah, stage 1 major. Then 2 on, with Ultra, of course it was, first, third, second. And then Rokkr was 4th. Then they actually got a 9th, 10th there on stage 3, I think it was. But then 5th, 6th, 1st, 4th. So there was improvement there. So I think what it comes down to, I think when you're a coach and like you're looking for that one player, I think it's not about that one player, because you can look at Ultra, right, and say, yes, Insight went up, but then we also have Cammy, we also have Kleenex, and we also
for sure, and they all elevated their game.
Exactly. So it's like there was something that almost unlocked this team's potential, whether it be communication wise, gunny wise, Standy as well.
Positioning.
With Rokkr, we did see improvements for Priesta, Major Maniac, all these guys. Where we saw that it failed, of course, is you look at like Thieves. Thieves had a major problem. They were rotating guys in out like crazy. They acquired Hook thinking he was going to be the end all be all.
Yeah.
You look at London, who were swapping out guys like crazy, and like I talked about before, Afro was a standout player, but where was the results? There was no results on London. So I think that it's like an ever going battle of, okay, what are you relying on the one guy coming in to change everything, or is it more of like a team shift of when we bring on someone else?
Definitely.
And like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Part of, we talked about this already, like throughout the year at times, but part of that like honeymoon period was early on in the year, it was insanely successful. And that definitely came into part with amateur players playing more Call of Duty than pros early on in the season. And even when I talked with Standy, he was like, yeah, like I came in, he's like, he came in and he was telling the Rokkr things they didn't know about the game.
Mhm.
And it's like early on in the game, I think having that extra reps, playing so much competition in the amateur scene can be an advantage. And like earlier, and that would be, I think one, maybe even like a side takeaway of that is that roster changes earlier on in the year, I think I would lean towards having a more positive impact than if it happens later. Especially if you're bringing in an amateur player, or an elite amateur player early.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I think it truly is like your mentality going into it. You know, you can say with Thieves, there probably was like never a chance because like they're obviously rotating out more than one guy at a time. You know, it's like 2 guys at a time, 2 to 3 guys at a time. And so it's like, okay, are we looking for one person here or like the whole team to shift? You know, it's just a weird, like, I don't know if there is quite like the code to crack. Like obviously Standy and Insight are phenomenal players, but you can't deny that the whole team got better too. Like can be improved.
Kleenex and Bance.
I think Kleenex improved. Bance obviously still looks strong. You know, we saw Major Maniac improve. We saw Priestess improve. Attach is going to be attached. So there's this like, you're almost looking for a key to your team. And I think, you know, maybe you could say that like Ultra and Rokkr kind of found got a lucky break, but at the same time, I think it's also on the teammates' jobs to like mold with them. It's also on them to adapt with that new player, not try to stick in their old ways, but when he comes in, being willing to adjust how you play to that new player.
Yeah, definitely. And even with the Rokkr, we saw them make a roster change after they brought in Standy. They swapped out accuracy for Major Maniac again.
Yeah.
And like then they decided, well, it didn't really do anything, and they're like, we'll just stick with it though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they thought that overall Major Maniac fit in better with how that team wanted to play, and ended up paying off. I mean, they obviously ended up winning stage 5. So, no, I think that's a great one for sure. So, my next one would basically be about, I called it the acknowledging the meta is kind of the title.
I might have something like this.
Acknowledging the meta. And this is kind of talking about the takeaway between OpTic and the XM4 and understanding like the meta matters in how teams play. And we never really got to see OpTic, you know, past the XM. We even saw this in Modern Warfare also with certain metas as well. And like how New York, the Subliners won the New York homestand on the 9mm ammo meta for that one event, and then it switched back, and then they were never really good again. And so it's like acknowledging that the meta impacts the game matters, and taking a big time mental note of any type of meta shift when it comes to adding in new maps or game modes or guns can help you understand why a team maybe succeeded, at least looking back on it.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off that too, it's like, it's not enough to simply know what the meta is, but you need to know what does that look like? Like, why are these attachments the meta attachments? Why is this certain attachment G8? What does it do? What can you accomplish with what the meta has? Like, you have to know it at that level to really be able to utilize the meta properly. Because otherwise you're just copying, but you don't know the reason why things are what they are. So you'll never be able to utilize them to their highest capabilities. That's my 2 cents on it. And that's one of the things that annoys me the most.
Interesting.
People just copy classes, but they don't really know why they copied the class. They don't know what the attachments are doing.
So you're talking more on like an individual like playing sense, like from like
I'm talking more of like an individual playing sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean I can see what you're saying for sure. Like, and understanding that meta is just so big. I'm talking about it more from like a analysis standpoint, like understanding like, okay, why did OpTic look so good, or why did New York win that home series, or why, looking back on it, like what changed for this team? And a lot of times a pretty good answer is the meta. Like, this map, why did, or like London, I think, was it London? it was like right when APOC Hardpoint got added in, and like there was a big upset that it was either London playing against New York, or was that when LAG beat FaZe? I can't remember. Like, like APOC got added in and Express got added in. Like, then it's like, oh, suddenly we're seeing some upsets. You're like, oh, I wonder why. It's because it's a new meta. And so it's like, but then sometimes I think what happens, at least for me, is that I forget that happened. And I'm like when you're like looking back on it, you're like, oh, well, this team almost beat FaZe back, 3 weeks ago or a month ago. And you're like, oh, wait, that was the first week that APOC got added in, or, Express got added in, or this new gun. Sometimes you forget and you still attribute that success to a team without like putting that asterisk, at least a little bit there, that maybe there's another reason for why they were randomly good.
Yeah. And like that even goes back to even Black Ops 4 with LG and Birmingham when they won with the Rampart. The Rampart. Like, they were by far the best team with the Rampart, because I think it's because the teams wouldn't admit that was like a meta.
A good gun.
Like, yeah, exactly. So like it was just like, well, Classic should be like, well, I'm going to use it, and they ended up winning. But like Classic had the series of his life. I'm pretty sure he was like way positive with it. So
it's like, I think that's the biggest thing, is that just once in a while I just feel like I just forget that was even a thing, and then I'm like, oh well, LAG they almost beat FaZe, or like they can bring this thing back, but then you kind of forget like why that maybe even happened in the first place.
Which is an interesting point too, is like, do you think there should be more things like that, or do you think like because
more
there's
meta
an
shifts?
asterisk? Yeah, like do you think there should be like, it's a bad thing that teams adapt faster than other teams, and that
no, I think it's part of the game. I think that's the fun of esports.
Yeah.
Is kind of like the part of the adaptation. But then it's like when you extrapolate that down to like new metas or different metas, you're like, well, 5 weeks ago LAG almost beat FaZe, and so they at least have a chance against OpTic. But it's like, well, 5 weeks ago, Express was the first time anyone was playing Express, and they beat, So it's just kind of that
metas
conversation.
Can get excessive. Like if they're like shifting constantly, that's too much. Like I don't remember if it was
World War
CoD
II?
or Overwatch, but like we were just going into champs, and then they changed the meta, and they've like changed, they've buffed and nerfed things right before champs. It's like you can't. That's just something that can't happen.
No,
because like
it
like,
definitely
and there's
has
like
to be
certain periods
scheduled.
of time when like you have that you can do those sorts of things. But you have to be very careful about it, because it can change the course of history, literally.
Definitely. I mean, and there's millions of dollars online for sure. So yeah, that was kind of my next one. Does someone have another one?
My next one here is, I think it kind of is maybe more of an opinion on my side when it comes to the old AR versus SMG debate. I think in Cold War, and maybe it was just more of a Cold War thing than not, but by far and away, having a heavy slaying SMG duo was the most important aspect of a team. And like I don't even know if that's debated or not, or whatnot, but I think it's clear that you can have an AR who is just consistent at the bare minimum,
and can organize a squad,
and puts up at least like a 0.95 and above, whatever it is. But if your SMGs are not in the top, like I think we said like top 15 players, I don't think you're going to see success. And I think we see it when you look at stats, the delta, like the difference between the top tier SMGs and the bottom tier SMGs are huge. But when it comes to ARs, it's like everyone's kind of putting up a 1. You have your dashes who are putting up like a 1.15, and still, their team didn't like ever win really.
And Krim would argue that he's hurting the team by doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's understanding that, and maybe coming to grips too with SMGs are by far and away. Is it bad to say like the most important aspect of a team?
Oh, I mean, it makes sense overall.
They can be the most impactful, but you can't take away the power an AR has, because if an AR doesn't hold spawns, if an AR doesn't
put their SMGs in a position to succeed,
doesn't position people correctly, then you have like no chance of winning. So you almost have a foundation with your AR that is completely necessary. And then you have like your subs where it's like, it's nice to have, but it's not like I guess the best teams will have like those best subs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like it is an interesting foundation, like you said. Like the foundation's probably the best word. Like you need to have a solid foundation, but you may not need an elite foundation to be
that's
great.
it.
But at the same time, like you said with Toronto, they didn't unlock until they brought in an elite AR. So it's like it does matter, and we saw Clay definitely maximize his SMGs throughout the year, and but then you look at like OpTic, where it was just inconsistent play from, maybe you could say from like not having like a good overall, but that might be a different situation just because of overall team effort and preparation. But I don't know. I just think overall, like, yes, you need to have, I would say you need to have at least one top 10 SMG if you really want to win an event. Like if you want to win an event, you probably need one top 10 SMG. I don't know how you could really win if you didn't have one.
Yeah, because like when you're looking at like, so like shout out to CoDLeagueStats.com,
Carson,
which is Carson. If you guys don't know him on Twitter, but what's interesting to see is looking at like overall stats for like just say hardpoint. When you get it down to like just ARs, you'll see guys like Sky is up there, Kenny up there, Aqua, Slasher, up in the top 10, top 15. Gunless is up there, Awakening's up there. But it's like, where was their team success? Like it like you can have an AR put up numbers, but it may not mean as much. But then when you go to SMGs, you know, your top guys are, you know, it's it's the Hydra, it's the Simp. It's
I mean, Seattle would undoubtedly be the best argument for your like that side. It's like you can have elite talented ARs, but if your SMGs aren't in the right positions and winning gunfights, it does not matter. Which is like, I guess for like I guess the reason why, you know, I brought up, some people might be like, well, duh, but I don't know, like you know, part of me like didn't like really want to believe like, okay, it's not just the SMGs, you know, which again, the whole picture, it's not just the SMGs, I know that. However, you can't deny the fact that like you do need to have an SMG, like you said, probably in the top 10. If you do and the
want to,
mixier the games get, the more it's needed. Like, you know, if you can finesse that one kill that flips the spawns, you pop the 2-piece instead of just trading kills. Like that's the difference. Like a lot of the times, how many times do we see a Shotzzy or a Clean X or a Hydra, you know, finessing on Garrison and getting that one extra kill that changed the hard point? You know, like it happened all the time. So I'm right there with you for sure on that, to say the least. So my next one was talking kind of more specifically about game, like dominance in game mode. So like being dominant in a game mode matters, obviously. Like last year with FaZe in control, like how dang good FaZe was at one game mode gave them a massive advantage in any series. And we saw that, like, you know, really keying in early on teams who are dominating one game mode and why they're specifically dominating that game mode, like can be a healthy predictor on getting better at anticipating who's going to win these matchups and like really keying in on that early. But I did want to say on like the other side of the coin is like, you can't let one team's performance, especially negatively in one game mode, or especially in one game mode on one certain map, completely flip or affect your opinion on that team. Because like last year, there's so many instances of like one team being just not good at X map, and then they figure out like, oh, eventually we need to like start vetoing this map till we get better. But like for a while there, it's like, well, you really have to dial in and pay attention to the trend of let's like, I don't know, why is OpTic losing these series? And it's like, oh, they've played Garrison Control, you know, 3 times in a row and they lost all 3 of them. Like maybe it's just that map. Maybe it's literally that map that's the difference for why they're losing. And like, so keying in on those things maybe can help maybe find the optimism or maybe find the counterpoints of view for arguments, and overall like maybe help less overreactions, while also keying in on teams' best game modes can also help, I think, with accurate predictions. Because it's just like it influences the series so much if you're just that dominant in a game mode.
Yeah, which makes the argument like more too, where it's like we're struggling to find a third. Well, it's going to be Control for this year, but you know, with specifically the challengers who are having to play without the third game mode, they don't even get a chance
be that team.
So that like truly is, but you know, when it comes to that point, that is like a significant loss when it comes to these first two cups for the challengers, where you don't give a team a chance to be dominant in that third game mode Control. So that truly confirms that seriously sucks for that team that's going to be be dominant.
Like Ultra and S&D last year, you're like, these guys, they're unbelievable. I mean, they're unbelievable in Search and Destroy. And like, it was their X factor throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
Just that like, so the elite teams, you can really dial in on those game modes. I think that can help with predictions a lot, especially map count. And like, the sooner we can dial in on that, the better it is. And the other thing I also wanted to kind of mention there to extrapolate on from my talk about like players getting back to what they were in the past, I also want to avoid banking on teams getting back to where they were in the past. Like you're like, well, they used to be so good at this game mode. They used to be so good in this thing, but now they're not. Like it was like, let's say LAG last year. Last year at the beginning of the season, LAG was a really good S&D team. And for a while I got caught like thinking, well, LAG is going to bounce back. They're a good S&D team. But like, I think I hung on to that too long. And so I think that whole like, well, they used to be good here. I maybe need to almost sometimes be more willing to really look into what they've been doing for you lately, you know?
Yeah. Like it could be the case that like Ultra will suck this year in S&D, but be super good at, you know, Control or Hardpoint or, you know, something where like that, where it's like, why aren't they good at S&D this year? It's like, well, they're just, they're a different mindset. They're like a different team. It's a different game. So just a lot of different factors to go into it.
Right. Well, like now that you mentioned that, I guess another takeaway that I had was that like new games matter. And I think it's impossible not to underestimate how much new games matter until you're in the new game. But like,
it's like, oh, wow.
You mean new games? You mean like Cold War to Vanguard?
Yeah. Cause like, or like BO4 to Modern Warfare. Like God RX or like a Wuskin, like those guys, like Wuskin, like he was a fine Cold War player, but like he ended up being an elite player in Modern Warfare season long because games matter and players are better at certain games than other games. And you know, Dylan CoD was unbelievable at BO4 and not the case in Modern Warfare. And like, sure, I'm sure life things happen and stuff too, but like, you know, at the beginning of the year, it's important to realize like maybe this isn't a fluke. Maybe this is just, it's a new game. So that type of conversation can be pretty
How
important.
much do we think scrims matter? I think it's a question like pros hate and then like, you know, scrims don't matter.
I actually had a point about that. Another takeaway I had was, I mean, 2 years in a row now, we've seen the top teams in scrims from the preseason be the top 4-ish teams all year long. Like in Modern Warfare.
But we saw with OpTic though. I mean, they were winning a lot of scrims and like they still were a good team in Cold War, but I think they disappointed some people compared to how their scrim results were.
Well, for sure. I mean, definitely. Like there can be like moderate like changes, of course. But like heading into Modern Warfare, I mean, FaZe, Huntsman, and Dallas were undoubtedly the 3 best teams. And then shocker, the whole year, they were the 3 best teams. And then in Cold War, I mean, FaZe, Dallas, and OpTic were the 3 best teams all the way through the preseason again. And then New York kind of was that next team where it was like stage 1, New York was the top 4. And then like, you know, those were 4 of the top 5 teams the rest of the season, with Toronto being the surprise. So it's like, if you're good in the preseason in scrims, it's at least a pretty decent sign that you're going to be at least competitive throughout the whole season.
I agree. I think they mean a little bit. I like, I'm not going to say it's the end all be all of everything, but I think they're a decent indicator of things.
Well, I mean, like, and again, we're only watching, like right now, we're only watching one game mode. I mean, we're only watching Hardpoint. So it's hard to say, like, we're not seeing Control. And we're never going to see S&D. So that definitely matters to say the least. But
Mm-hmm.
Sam, do you have any more?
Those were all mine. So,
Well, good news, boys. I got some more.
yeah, let's go, Josh.
There was one smaller one since we're leading into the kickoff event this year, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the next few weeks. But like thinking back to the kickoff event last year, is that S&D in the kickoff event is meaningless because the pros have never seen each other play it for like 3 months. And like last year, we were all like, "Holy crap, FaZe got smoked in S&D," or like, "Yeah, Florida destroyed them, 6-0'd them twice or whatever." It was like, whoa. And then shocker, stage 1 comes around and FaZe is really good at S&D. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, our team's even going to try on S&D, you think?
Yeah, and like so there's always
like they'll try, but they're not gonna do anything magical. Like they're just gonna go in and play it like they would like a GB or something.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think, search and destroy early on in the game can be a little bit fluky, but teams learn. I mean, you see all the pro team strats after the first event. Like you're like, oh, they're doing that. Like we should probably do that too. And the teams who are best at adapting and learning and picking up on these things are going to be the teams that are best at S&D year long.
It is interesting. Do you think, like, obviously teams do not want to scrim S&D and you don't want to show strats and that kind of thing, but you almost wonder if they were to just scrim S&D, if the game would actually like evolve like more to like the point where it's like they're like, it wouldn't matter that
that's what you're saying.
It like wouldn't matter that they're scrimming because like they're gaining things from scrims that they would never have before. So, like, I don't know, because
wouldn't it benefit teams to have a secret pact with another team to like
probably
practice S&D against each other? Like,
I don't
honestly,
know how a team doesn't practice S&D. I don't know
practice
how
against amateur teams.
They do. Yeah. AM teams for sure. But it's like the same thing too, where it's like hardpoint, like you do have certain stress in hardpoint. I get it's not the same mode, but man, like part of me is like, I think scrimming S&D could be very beneficial against pro teams. That's like where the fact like, yeah, maybe you're giving up some strats, but at the same time, I think you'd find out things faster and the game would evolve faster too.
Yeah, that's actually interesting
throughout the year. So
and then like you're giving away strats to everyone. So are you really giving away strats to anyone? Because you're seeing all theirs, but then it's like there's always
here's the thing: you're giving away your tendencies though with it.
Right, that's what it is.
True.
And tendencies are like kind of like those things that you don't even recognize that you do, but
it's the round 11
they
stuff.
Watch you play, they can be like, he goes there like all the time. He can't help himself to go to that spot.
Right. Yep. So then it's like teams rather have the unbiased, like less of that during SDs when they're playing together for sure. So, the other things I had were. The only other one I had was basically just talking about early season dominance versus like middle season dominance. Like we can always expect that the teams who are dominant early aren't going to be as dominant by stage 2, stage 3. Like it's inevitable that teams are going to have more competition. And
they always study the top teams. Like whoever's number 1, that's who everyone just starts looking to beat. So someone's always after your back.
Like, stage 1, FaZe dominated everyone in stage 1. And then stage 2, they lost to Toronto. Stage 3, they got beaten in the winners finals versus New York, and then they ended up winning. And then stage 4, they got pushed to a game 9 by New York. They ended up winning. I mean, by Dallas, but they ended up winning. And then stage 5, they lost to Seattle. But then shocker, at the end of the year, when everything's on the line, they dominate everyone at champs. So it's like, there's going to be that middle season competition when teams are trying to evolve the metas, but like at the end of the day, you can't bank on the early season meaning as much as the middle of the year to the end of the year.
Yeah, no, I think it's like for sure like a case in point too, where we think about Modern Warfare with Rokkr and GodR X. Remember how like everyone was like, man, Rokkr is like gonna be amazing. GodR X is like this phenomenal player, but then like I think we saw they just figured out the game sooner. And then everyone caught up, and then it was like, wow, they don't look so good.
Figured it out again, yeah.
No. So it really is like this thing where it's like, yeah, like if you can capitalize on learning the game faster, you could probably take the first major, maybe in the second major, maybe.
Yeah.
But inevitably, like you said, it's going to become where like every team knows what they're gonna do, and then like the best players are gonna be
unless you have a massive meta shift or something like that, like we were talking about earlier. But yeah, 100%. So yeah. Well, there it is, folks. I think that's that. I think those are the takeaways. I think that was a fun combo. Like overall with some of the things we learned, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. But we still have the spiciest part of the show to go. I mean, we got intelligent or irrelevant coming up next. So without further ado, boys, let's hit this dropping. Let's talk about some intelligente or irrelevante, baby. Let's hit it.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Well, Sam, what do you got for us, baby? Intelligent or irrelevant?
Okay, so this is very apropos to our conversation, especially early on. So, with all the news about the Boston team, I wanted to see some bold predictions. I wanted to see some people throw it on the line and like be confident in this team. So, my question was, if the rumored Boston team is true, Methods, TJ, Nero, Cap, what is your way too early placement of this team? Top 33%, top 33%, middle or bottom 33%. So thirds, right? So
I mean, come on. Like you should have done 12th, 10th, or 12th, 11th, 10th, or 9 or better.
No. I want some confidence in this squad. That's why I said I want to see some bold prediction.
It's going to be 90% bottom 33.
What about middle 30%? Come on.
Oh my God. Okay, please show me the results. Please show me the results.
Oh my gosh. I'm going top 33% because I believe in TJ, baby. Okay. Whoa. Here we go. We have a close poll.
Really?
We do.
Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So 3.8% say top 33%, which is probably just my vote.
Just your vote.
Middle 33% says 42.5% is middle.
Whoa.
And then bottom is 53.8%. So guys, I finally did it. This is probably my closest poll of all time.
Wow, dude. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
So I want you to take back what you just said to me and
I apologize. Wow, I thought I was going to be, I'm way up. People must be riding high off those scrims today.
I think
I'm curious who they have below the middling.
Yeah. So here's some.
Methods was frying on Gavutu though. Got to give him that. He was frying.
I'm gonna read every reply because we got less than 10. So this is what I'm gonna read
all of them.
So I hold shift. Love you, man. Here's a bold prediction. You're all cute. Wow.
2 for 2 today. He's on fire.
He's just the best.
Word.
He's on fire.
Shift. From Hughes, I see FaZe, Ultra, OpTic, Subliners, Rokkr, Thieves, LEG all better easily. London, Surge, and even Florida possibly better. Wish I could be spicy, but just don't see the roles on this Boston squad making much sense either. So that's interesting too, is he doesn't like the roles of this team.
It was all right.
Which I can kind of see it, but like maybe
with
he's just
Tish having to like flex more now.
Yeah, so that could be it. At Evo Horde says, I got to go with bottom 33%. I wanted to put them in the middle, but there is just too much talent in the league. There is a lot of talent. And I think there are questions with TJ after his struggles in Cold War. It seems to be hard to be competitive with a team that was just put together like Paris and Cold War, which is also what we talked about was they are getting late in the game. There does seem to be, this correlation. Obviously, putting your team together at the last 2 months, 3 months, there isn't a ton of people to choose from.
Right.
That's what it is. Desma at I always butcher his name, so it's just Desma. No Doug, no dub. Enough said. I wholeheartedly agree with that one. At Dangled Sniper should be Zin TJ with Paul Venom, which is a very fair point.
That was the debate. We're rolling through, boys. At Vapors Official, realistically, FaZe, Ultra, OpTic, LAT, and New York are all locks to be top 8, along with Rokkr and LEG in the conversation. I don't imagine Boston will be better than any of those teams, so I'd have them somewhere between 6 and 8, assuming they play to their potential. So even 6 and 8 is very high for this poll.
Not bad.
So, and then
lands that way.
Yeah.
Last two here at Connor 1497 Sorry for long reply. I feel this team has done what a new team in the league should. Take a risk on a couple challenger players with a couple vets as well, which is what we talked about as well. In my opinion, Methods is super slept on. He's super consistent and can be a top 6 AR, if not better. TJ can be a super impactful sub when he's on form and in a good team environment,
Teach is the question.
which feels like he hasn't had it for a couple of years. Nero looks like he has a high potential getting
He does.
6 top 6, 4 top 3s, and a first across all Cold War challengers last year, which is impressive with the LAG Academy squad. So this guy put out some good stats here. Like Nero,
Respect that. That's a good reply.
yeah, very very respectful. So Connor, you get. I wish I could like your reply twice, but I can't. And then last but not least, Overtime 89 says they get clapped early on someone's. Wait, they get clapped early on and someone gets subbed out for Doug Sensor Martin.
Doug,
he turns the
he's
team
back.
around and they win champs defeating FaZe in a best of 9 5-0. Oh my word.
100%. I mean, that's exactly facts. So, I mean, without further ado, guys, that's a podcast right there. I mean, Doug Sensor Martin's coming back, baby. I mean, all he needs is Yannette. And so, I mean, what are you guys watching this week? Heading back to the holidays. Rex, you're already back. That's why we have why we didn't even mention that's why you have a different setup today.
Yep, that's why I'm in here in my dad's office. But Harry Potter, been watching Harry Potter.
Nice. Sam, what are you watching?
I am
Playing
going
Pokemon.
I am finishing season 1 of The Witcher because season 2 just came out.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That's all
I gotta
say.
start that, man.
Dude, season 2's been really good.
So I am excited for that.
I was annoyed that it came out this week. I wish it would come out. It got me distracted from from some work I was doing. I was like, dang it, I need to watch at least an episode or 2 of this. It's like, so it's really good. So I've been holding it off till I get back so I can have something to watch over Christmas break. But my goodness, it's been good so far.
Good.
But yeah, and Jake Paul knocking, that was sick. I'll be honest. That was fire. I didn't think he was gonna knock out Tyron Woodley like that. So I'm impressed. What can I say?
Face down.
I mean, that was insane. But there it is, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Best 3 pod. I have to stay up and edit this whole thing tonight, so this is going to be a pain. But without further ado, guys, hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you guys really enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, and drop that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you can. It always helps us out. We appreciate that. But as always, I'm Josh, SalvationsElite. To my right is Batman3, and to our right, per usual, was Rex, ShadyNero. And guys, we will see you next time. We out.